Welcome to another Demarcation Media Mega Construx review. Today we are going to be taking a look at the legendary Alpha 9. So I've managed to amass all of the most recent versions of the Alpha 9 figures, and we are just going to go through one by one, take a look, just like we've done with the other teams in the past. I think so far I've done Fireteam Majestic and Noble Team. I did Fireteam Osiris as well, but since that was a whole set, I'm not really counting it. But yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right in, starting with Buck. Here he is, the leader of the bunch. So this guy came in Halo Heroes Series 1. Because the team that I have, the version of the team that I have, is not entirely Halo Heroes or entirely set figures, I'm not including any stands because I don't have the stands for some of them, and some of them don't come with stands. Actually, it's impossible to get in fully Heroes Alpha 9 because Mickey was never made as a hero. Anyway, this guy was Halo Heroes Series 1, which means he is a fairly old figure at this point, which makes him pretty hard to get, and since he is Buck, everybody wants him, so he's expensive. We've got a old style AR, which is painted up nicely, but I'm not a huge fan of this old mold. It's just very big and bulky. It kind of gets hard to pose in shooting positions. But it's not a bad weapon. I like that it's painted up. And then Buck himself is actually pretty generic. So in-game, his armor is fairly generic. The things that make him stand out from, say, the Wombat Drone Rookie, who has almost the exact same color scheme, is the helmet. He's got this extra little, comm thing on the side. And then the chest plate. The chest plate has a spot for one of the little tiny ODST knives, which are pretty rare, actually. There we go. He's got his little knife in case he runs out of ammo. He's got printed up chest plate, very, very simple, just gray. And really the only way you can tell it's not Rookie's chest plate is the fact that it's got the little peg. So if you ever come across a Mega Construx lot and you think there's a Rookie in there, double check and make sure it's not Buck. Because if it is Buck, you're going to want to buy that lot really quick. Around the back, really no print. Shoulders have a little bit of light gray, like that. Visor is a very, very dark blue, and then next to the black, it kind of blends in a little bit, and then the comms thing is painted in kind of a light gray. And then he's got light gray upper thigh armor, and then lower arm pieces. Now, I'm not entirely sure why they went with this, because in-game, they don't really have much of a difference like this. It doesn't straight up look inaccurate, but it also doesn't stand out like that in the game. So it's a little odd why Mega went with that. But he's got the fingerless gloves. And overall, this guy is a great figure, and you could also just use him as a generic ODST. Paint on him if you wanted to, though I would not recommend doing that. If you want to paint an ODST and have a Buck that you don't want, I would suggest just selling Buck and buying a couple of generic ODSTs, because this guy can run you quite a bit of money, especially if he's complete. Coming in from Halo Heroes Series 2, we have the Smart Mouth Sniper Romeo. He is, of course, armed with a sniper rifle. It's got some silver print on gray and then a black scope. So Mega has a problem with their sniper rifles where all of the barrels turn upward, which I think is slightly accurate to the in-game sniper rifles. They do curve up a little bit so you can aim better. Slightly, really, really slightly. The main reason for this is when you clip in this stand, it forces the whole thing to hinge upward slightly, which is a little weird. So I wish they would come up with some way to fix that. Maybe make the stand, I don't know, 2 pieces and peg in on either side and have this be a complete hole instead of a clip. I don't know. But it can be annoying to have your sniper rifles all bending different directions. So we'll set that aside. And then Romeo is instantly recognizable for a couple reasons. First of all, his helmet. He's got the add-on. I don't know the name of that add-on. But then he's got the missing shoulder armor on this side, and then the bulked up sniper shoulder on this side. And then his visor. His visor really makes him stand out from Buck. Look at that. Romeo's visor looks like it's actively glowing, whereas Buck's is just kind of shiny. So I kind of wish that they had done this blue color for all the ODSTs. I'll have to look back at the game to see if Romeo's specifically glowed more. I don't think it did, but this is just a great color. I really wish Mega had used it for all of them. The attachment on top has a print for the little lens, and then it's got some extra like gray silver print that kind of almost blends with the helmet color, and then is not super consistent. Like it comes off, like it falls off on this side, it kind of spray and then stop. So it's a little weird. Chest plate, just plain dark blue, which is pretty cool. Around the back, nothing. The big shoulder plate has stripes, and actually, so I'm not going to get too far into this, but I'm going to be putting this kind of shoulder on my own ODST armor at some point. And then he's got fingerless gloves, which have more of his fingers showing than Buck's gloves. I'm sure there's some versions of Romeo that the print cut off sooner, but mine in particular has more finger than glove. And he's got the darker skin tone. And he matches Buck in that he has the light gray highlights on the armor. So I'm not a huge fan of Romeo's character in the game, but I gotta say his armor set is pretty darn cool. Moving to Halo Heroes Series 7, we have Dutch. Now Dutch comes armed with a, whoops, stand up. He comes armed with a splazer, but it's an old splazer, so it's a little awkward looking. But it's got some green print as well as a little red stripe here. Not bad, but I'm just personally not a fan of these old splazers. They just look weird to me, especially since they're missing one of the handles. And then Dutch himself is a little odd because his shark teeth are just kind of silver. And I don't really know why Mega did this, because they literally had an entire line that was just ODSTs with shark teeth printed on their helmets. And yet, for Halo Heroes, they can't seem to print shark teeth? Like, what's up with that? So that's a bit of a bummer. His visor color is pretty much the same as Buck's. You can see that. I don't know why Romeo's is different. I really don't. Then he's got a chest plate that's more intricate than the ones we've seen before. He's got a little skull and crossbones on there with orange and then gray. This one is a used one. So ignore the little slight wear lines there. That would not come if this was new. Orange on the shoulder, orange on the other shoulder. He comes with a backpack similar to, well, exactly the same as what Spartan George has, just in gray. Around the back, no extra print. And then he has the same little gray highlights. Oh, and some orange on the helmet. Dutch was always a weird character to me. He's like, I don't know, his character just didn't make sense. He's like almost a Christian, but not quite. And so it's just kind of interesting to me, since I myself am a Christian. His character was kind of like, what, huh? So he's just kind of interesting. And he's kind of funny as well. So it's pretty cool to have him in my collection. I just wish they would have gotten the shark teeth a little better. It's mostly just silver. It doesn't look like teeth in the slightest, really. And then we've got the strong silent type, Rookie himself. This guy comes from Halo Heroes Series 10, and this is where the kind of matching designs start to fall a little bit. So he comes armed with a gold SMG with a suppressor, but that's not the most helpful weapon. If you're sneaking around New Mombasa and it's really rainy, you're not going to want to have a super shiny blinged out SMG. But this was done because it was part of the 10th anniversary series, so I'll let it slide. We've got some major differences here. So first of all, the printing has kind of improved in some ways. We have a tiny, tiny little UNSC logo there, and then it also says UNSC on the chest plate, and we have actual chest plate showing through the print instead of just a blanket print. The stripe on the helmet looks very nice. The visor on mine, so this is a little weird. It's hard to tell exactly where the visor starts and finishes because of how dark the helmet is, but it's a little bit of a sloppy visor print. It just doesn't show up that well, which is why I haven't really done much about it. Like, for me, it's good enough. There's some extra faint gray print on kind of the cheek sections, and then the shoulders have a lot of silver on them. And then there is no more light gray highlights for the thighs and the lower arms. It is just the same monotone gray as the rest of the armor, which I think is pretty good. I don't see why they needed the gray in the first place. So this is a good change. He's got the fingerless gloves and a backpack just like Dutch had. So that's pretty cool. Those backpacks are always really nice to get. This guy is one of my favorite Mega Construx figures just because of how easy it is to stick him in a rainy scene and have him be all by himself just standing there, and it looks great. Now we are to the figures that are not Halo heroes. This is the 20th anniversary Mickey, the traitor himself. He comes armed with a black rocket launcher, no print at all. And then the figure himself is pretty fantastic. We've looked at him in quite a bit of detail before here on the channel, both in the 20th anniversary review and the Mickey versus Mickey comparison. So I won't go a ton into detail again here, but he's got the same as Rookie. He's got the kind of monotone look, so they match in that regard. He's got the different shoulder armor on this side. I think this is like the demolition shoulder pad. This side is unprinted. Excuse me. He's got the fingerless gloves, just like all the others, and this little ammo thing around his ankle. Light is printed. The visor is a dark blue, but it is not shiny. It's a matte color, which I honestly really like. And he has the special backpack that he always comes with. Very, very cool figure, and I really like Mickey's design. He just has a bit of a iffy history. And last but not least, we have the Oni Spook herself, Veronica Dare, who does not have a head here. She does not come with an unmasked head, so she will wear her helmet the whole time. Even though in the game, she only wore her helmet for like 10 seconds, and then it got yeeted into a wall at some point, which is a shame because her helmet is really cool. It's the Recon helmet. This one has her name printed on it. The visor is really nice. The chest plate has the UNSC logo, some extra details. This one's a little crooked. Could have been better, but not awful. The knees have some print. The shoulders are now made to be without shoulder armor, and she comes armed with a black SOCOM pistol. No fingerless gloves. No fingerless gloves. Don't know why, but that's fine, I guess, because since she's not officially like an actual ODST, it makes sense, I guess, kind of. She doesn't fully match the rest of the team, and that's also fine because she just did her own thing and caused trouble for the rest of Alpha 9. So that's pretty cool. Oops, I'm putting away the wrong figure. So she's a pretty cool figure, and since this is the helmet on version, I actually like it a little bit better just because I like the helmet a lot. Not a bad figure. Not a bad figure at all. Now will you stand up? Come on. Thank you. Alright, so some of the weapons on these guys are a little wanting, at least in my opinion. So Dare's is fine. It's a SOCOM pistol. It's all black, but there's not that many printed SOCOM pistols, so that's fine. Romeo, he's got a very well detailed, very up-to-date weapon, so he's also fine. But these four right here, their weapons are a little lacking. Rookie has the blinged out SMG with the chubby little scope, which I actually kind of like the chubby scope. It's just, it doesn't work the greatest in this situation. Dutch, he has the old Splazer. Buck has the old AR, which this is not a bad piece. I just am looking for something different. And Mickey has the plain black rocket launcher. So, I have some weapon suggestions for these guys. You may or may not have the pieces. You may or may not have any of these figures that I'm talking about. But if you do have some of these figures, then I've got a couple suggestions for how to improve them. So, starting with Rookie, we have a SMG from, let me move these guys, from the Master Chief versus the Arbiter 2-pack with a Call of Duty suppressor tacked on. Now, the Call of Duty suppressor is a bit longer and is also a lot more slim than the Halo suppressor. So, this is what I use for my Rookie. Just a simple gun with a few paint apps and a slightly better looking suppressor. Like I said, I do like the chubby one. I just think in this case, because we see Rookie so much with a gun that looks a specific way, this just fits a lot better. So he has a better weapon. This is what I use on a regular basis. Dutch. So Dutch came with the old Splazer, so let's give him a new Splazer. This one came from the SDCC Master Chief collection on the Halo 2 Chief, I think. But if you don't happen to have that set, the Splazer from the Series 11, Halo Heroes Series 11 Operator would work just as well, or maybe even better. I just happen to be using the Operator's Splazer on a Spartan right now, so this one was up for grabs. So this one is now Dutch's Splazer. I think that looks a lot better. And Dutch kind of used the Splazer a fair bit, so I think that works pretty well. Buck. Buck is a little... He kind of can have just any weapon. He didn't use like one weapon a ton. He just kind of switch between. So I like using the BR from, I think this is the Halo Heroes Series 13 Chief. Had this one. The Chief versus Arbiter BR would work pretty well too. But I just think this looks kind of cool. I don't know why. Just, it seems to fit Buck using the BR like that. So I think that's a better weapon, and it's easier for him to hold than the huge, chunky spatula of an AR. So that is the weapon that I've been using on him for now. And then Mickey. Mickey had a rocket launcher, so we are going to give him the best rocket launcher possible. The Spanker itself. So the Spanker had been needing a user. I got this one a while back as actually a prize for winning something on the Domains Discord. So now it belongs to Mickey, and I think it matches pretty well because all of the red and yellow markings on the Spanker kind of correspond nicely with the red markings on Mickey's armor. So I think that is a pretty darn good weapon for him to be using. Well, there you have it. That is the entirety of Alpha 9 in all of their most recent versions. So, since Buck, Romeo, and Dutch came out, we haven't gotten any updated versions of them. Because I think the, what was it? What was the set called? It had Dutch and another ODST and like a little terrain build and a couple of drones. And I don't remember what the name was, but I think that one came out before the Heroes Dutch did, so that would make the Heroes Dutch the most recent version. Yeah, I think we're about due for another Buck and Romeo and Dutch, and if the rumors are true, there will be an entire set that is centered around Alpha 9 in the Halo Universe series. How soon that set is going to come out, I'm not sure, but let's hope that they all kind of follow suit with the way they did Mickey and Dare, because they came out pretty nicely. I just hope they can get some of the quality control issues under control before that set comes out. So the team as it is right here is a bit split in half by the ones that have the light gray and the ones that don't. So you could, if you wanted to, gather a couple of the ODSTs from the ODST Squad Ambush set, the one that you can find in Dollar General a lot. And I believe those guys have the same color for the lower arms and thigh pieces. So if you wanted to get one of those sets and then swap out the lower arms and thigh pieces, then you would have a whole matching set. Dare obviously doesn't need those extra pieces because she has her whole blue and gray color scheme. So if you wanted to have the light gray highlights, it would be pretty easy to do. Or if you wanted to go the opposite direction, you could try and find some people selling their extra Mickey if they didn't want a Mickey. I don't know why they wouldn't if they bought a 20th set, but I don't know. People like what they like. And maybe they just bought the set for the Shipmaster or the Prophet, or I don't know, one of those figures, and they don't want the Mickey. Or you're trying to buy a couple of the Halo Heroes rookies and using the dark pieces and putting it on these guys. To be honest, I kind of don't recommend either. Well, okay. If you have to do one, I would say do the adding the light gray, because that would be pretty easy and cheap, and your team would match. But trying to get the darker pieces would not be easy. Halo Heroes rookie is not cheap right now. I think he's like upwards of $30. Mickey isn't the cheapest either. He's probably a little less, but still not going to be very cost effective. And to be honest, I think having some of them with the light gray and some of them with the dark kind of adds some variation, some difference to the team members, because they're ODSTs, they've got their armor all customized, and so I don't see any reason why they need to look all uniform, because they're not. They don't even really look that uniform in the game. They look, I don't know if messy is the right word, but kind of messy. They all kind of have their own look. You can tell who's who by just looking at their helmet most of the time, and I think that having some of the light gray highlights and some of the dark highlights just perfectly fine. And it helps to differentiate between Rookie and Buck a lot better. Because, as I said before, the previous version, I think there was one version of Rookie before this one. He looked a lot like Buck. And it's kind of hard to tell sometimes if you just glance at them. So, I think it's perfectly fine to leave them as is and just have some extra variation to your team. I think it looks pretty cool. And I also think I need to do some more photos with these guys, because so far the only one that's really made it onto a photo is Rookie, and that's because I've had him for longer. So I wanted to say a quick thanks to Mega Burb for hooking me up with the Buck and the Romeo, and then it was Noble 6 Originals that I got the Dutch from. So big thanks to both of them. They were the reason that I was able to complete my Alpha team, Alpha 9. Alpha team is something totally different. And do this video. And what other teams would you guys want to see reviewed? What other teams are there even? I know there's Blue Team, but that's a whole set, and I may or may not track that one down at some point. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear if you guys have any other teams you want me to review. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.